So I can't really say I was initially planning this video, but hey, the Chiaroscuro Kickstarter is still happening, and the demo got updated in some ways which directly solve some of my issues. Joey has also talked about some ideas that address some of the other concerns that I had, so I figured I might as well pop in for a quick video on my thoughts on the changes. This video is intended for people who have already seen my initial Chiaroscuro video or are familiar with, at the very least, the old version of the demo, but just in case you aren't, then the brief summary is that I really liked everything about the style and presentation of the demo. The platforming felt great, but I felt that the combat had unrealized potential. The changes in this update mostly affect how combat works. You no longer hold the attack button to enter an attack state, each button press instead corresponds to a single swing. It feels really good, and you can still change the direction of your swing, so I don't think it loses any design potential for this change. Anything that you could have done in the previous system, you can still do in this system. I just think it now feels better to do those things, because you have more control. Also, you need to find a certain rhythm to rapidly chain attacks. It's basically just to ensure you aren't just mindlessly mashing. There was a previous update that I didn't cover where the timing of this felt a bit difficult to consistently nail, but in this update, I found as long as I wasn't panicking, I could pretty consistently stick to the rhythm. In my brief time with the game, I found it to be a rewarding system. The more consistently you stick to the rhythm, the more damage you can put out. Adding further to your control, you can now cancel attack animations with a dash. It would be nice if you could also cancel these with a jump, give you even more control over your movement. It feels good, and it allows the game to be a bit meaner with its enemy designs, which I'm very much here for. That dash can now also go up slopes. That was a change made in the previous update, and while I think this change has potential for interesting platforming, I don't think the current level design of the demo shows off that potential. The biggest addition in this update is a new boss fight, the Pumpkin Prince. How delightfully spooky. Happy Halloween, by the way. He has a bit of dialogue before his fight, which seems to indicate that he's not necessarily hostile, which is interesting. Unlike the Dragonfly boss fight, this very much feels like a real boss fight, as in there's more challenge here than none at all. The start of the fight is fairly simple and slow-paced. His attacks are definitely more involved than what we saw with the big bug, but knocking down that first health bar starts the second phase, which is what really cemented for me that this game could have interesting and potentially challenging bosses. However, I do think it was on the easier side. I was level 10 and cleared the boss on my first try. The two changes I could think of implementing would be to give him more health. That of course comes with the challenge of ensuring the boss doesn't become repetitive by the end. Lily fought the boss as well and echoed my health complaint. She discovered you can, quote, wail on his fucking face and knock off half his health during the phase transition, which turns that fight into an even briefer experience. If the fights were made longer, there's the possibility of introducing variants to the moves as the fight progresses, or possibly combining them in some way. I could, for example, see the Pumpkin Prince performing his lightning attack while one of the other moves was occurring, forcing the player to limit the area they have to dodge the other move. Still, I did really enjoy the boss, and I'm excited for more. Oh, and the music track that plays during the Pumpkin Prince fight is a fucking bop. It's much more intense than anything else presented in the demo, and I'm glad that the music can shift like that. The tone for different areas and encounters could be wildly different depending on the music, which could help further to distinguish the feel of each area and establish the tone of the story. Seeing that Joey was willing to implement changes to the demo gives me hope that he's receptive to feedback and willing to iterate upon Chiaroscuro until it lives up to the mountains of potential that it has. This also makes me put more weight into his claims about the future of the game. Firstly, the element system has some very interesting plans. Each element will supposedly give Rose 3 different abilities, and there will be 10 elements total that you'll be able to quickly switch between. By the end of the game, this could provide a potentially massive moveset, and based on how good the game feels now, I'm very much looking forward to Rose's upcoming magical capabilities. On my concern that the environments might come off as samey due to the art style, Joey wanted additional help with concept art so that in the finished game, all the areas can be sure to look distinct. He has that help now, so I'm excited to see how that's reflected in the visuals. The final game will have a map, and it does always help to have a map. There's plans to rework the bow to match the faster pace that the sword changes provide, which is probably a good idea. Also, he made a very intentional choice to reveal so little about the story, as he wants the finished game to surprise in this respect. It makes critiquing that pretty much impossible for me for the time being, but if the story winds up landing the intended way, it could be for the best. So, fair enough. So yeah, that's the somewhat spooky update. There's a bit over a week in the Kickstarter left, and it's nearly at its goal, so things are looking pretty good for that. I felt the desire to talk about this because it's made me much more confident in the future of Chiaroscuro. If the game has improved this much in a short period of time, I'm very excited to see what years of development could bring. This has been Kalice. Thanks for watching. You can like the video, subscribe, or share this video around if you enjoyed it and want to. My Patreon exists if you'd like to support me. There's neat bonuses like access to my Discord server and the ability to listen to hours-long raw recording sessions that are kind of sort of like podcasts, so feel free to go look at that if you'd like to. Speaking of, big thanks to all of my current patrons like Lotta, Edith, and Sam, all of whom are really cool people. Keep loving what you love, and I'll see you next time with something else. This counts as a Halloween video, right? Fear the Pumpkin Prince! Ooh.